Hello and welcome, everyone. I am here today with Laura Flanagan, who wrote this incredible book, Hardcore Vegetarian. Welcome to the Veggie. I've been kind of going through it this week, and not only is it a beautiful book, like there's a lot of beautiful imagery, but you talk a lot about food as love and food as culture and storytelling. And I'm so excited. You are Leo rising, so you have a Taurus midheaven. So Taurus is food, right, and resources. The midheaven is what you become known for. So you are the foodie. Do you find yourself being the foodie in your household or in your friend group?
Absolutely. I'm definitely the foodie in my household because Harley doesn't really know where the kitchen is except to open the fridge to pour
There.
something to drink.
Nice.
Yes, I run the kitchen and I love to cook and I love to cook for people I love. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I grew up in a household where food was about being with your family and conversation and the kind of Norman Rockwell. Well, not quite, I take that back. I was born and raised in New York City. There was no Norman Rockwell here, but
Fair.
we did we did have dinner together. And food was very social. And I am a creative person. I write and I paint and very visual. And for me, over time, cooking has become creative. So it's got this feeding people I love, entertaining and social, and very creative. So I'm in. I'm like, yes,
Yeah.
this is what I love doing. So
That's awesome. I'm also a Taurus midheaven. My parents both owned restaurants and were New Yorkers. But I love that you mentioned very early in the book that food was just food kind of growing up, but you've built this more intimate relationship with it. Um, what have you learned in the process of making this book? As has anything changed in your relationship with food since putting this book together?
I guess it has, though I wasn't really aware of it. I think I'm taking it more seriously. because because my husband has said, like, oh my God, this is so good so many times. Like, I think my food is getting better, and I think it's because feel like I have to up my game. Like, I can't just mess around anymore. I got a cookbook. It's got to be really good. I got to like show up, make it right. The funny thing about the book, though, and this is, I think I say this in the book, is I'm a very relaxed cook. I'm not kind of uptight about stuff. If you mess up, you can order out. It's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
But I do feel like the recipes that are in the book now, I've already changed them, and that annoys me because I want to share. I'm like, oh wait, I put this in this, or I did this
Yeah.
to this, and I combined this and this, and I want to go and be like, hey, by the way, do this to this,
Yeah.
but it's there already.
That's,
So
I mean, that's DIY. That is punk, right? Like that is DIY. Make your own. And sometimes, your mood is like you're feeling like maybe you need a little bit more nourishment. Maybe you've had a bad day. So maybe you want something, with a little bit more comfort to it, like or like maybe you're having a day where you're just feeling lethargic. Maybe adding some more spice to something can kind of fire you up. I think like, I come from the magic world, so I have a basic understanding that we're just kind of learning about from a science level right now that food, especially like plants, like they have a consciousness, right? Like and you can have dialogue. And one of the things that I have found in my own food journey is the more that I connect with plants that I'm eating, and whether that's just like, saying a little prayer, having a little gratitude, or just being like, some people think this is a little silly, but I'll sometimes talk to my food and I'll be like, today I want you to make me feel nourished. I have a big meeting. I need to feel confident. And even if it's just psychological, like placebo effect, it really does help. But I do think that plants have consciousness. And so I think the more that you play with it, the more you have fun with it. Plants, they've given their life in a way for you. So it's like, you might
That's just
as well allow
yeah.
them to be part of the ecosystem. Fun, right? Anyway, that's just my
I agree with you, and I feel particularly solid like that about mushrooms and how incredible mushrooms are, and the, all the material that's come out about, how they sustain the forests and how they're conduits of information between trees and the entire uh root system. It's unbelievable. We are controlled by mushrooms.
absolutely.
And
You should all listen to Terrence McKenna. He was
it's
having
amazing.
a cow.
Fascinating, fascinating stuff.
I agree. One of the other things that I really like about this book too is just because a lot of my folks over here, I'm autistic with ADHD, and so my brain sometimes, like I struggle with burnout. I struggle with forgetting things a lot of times, and so there's like a looseness to this book that I really like, and a lot of like what we would call low spoons food is also like the I loved what was it? Harley's lettuce, or what is it? Wasn't lettuce wraps. It was something. Sorry. It
Yeah,
was
no,
like
that's okay. That's okay.
one of the recipes that you had was really just quite simple. And so I love
Oh, it's
that.
just like butter lettuce. It's just like
Yeah,
it's just butter lettuce with like a little bit of dressing, and that's it. Let's call it a day.
exactly. That's and so I love that there are plenty of recipes in here that are just very simple, what we would call low spoons meals. There's some that are more complicated as well. What do you think is the one recipe that you've really had to like rework a lot, or that kind of became like maybe a passion project throughout this book?
Yeah, so I'd say one of the recipes that I've had the most trouble keeping consistent.
Hmm.
Um, there's there's a it's a Chinese eggplant that is so delicious when done properly. Like I hit it and it was another level. I'm like, I can work in a restaurant. I will work in a Chinese restaurant and make this dish and everybody will love it. And it's like I don't hit it every time and I
Yeah.
don't know why. And it's very frustrating.
Eggplant is really hard. We used to grow eggplant in our backyard, and my stepmother she was diabetic, so she loved making like a very like healthy kind of eggplant parmesan. And when it was bomb, and when it wasn't, it was mushy.
Yeah, that's right. And so once I hit it and it was like the inside was soft, the outside was super crunchy, and it had this incredible sauce. This sauce is insane. And I was like, this is it. I'm a pro. And then of course the next time I did it, I'm like, wah, wah, wah. So that's okay. It's you know.
Yeah.
So I
If
struggled
you
with
were
that one.
if you were having like a dinner party and you really wanted to like impress somebody, but also maybe perhaps wanted to do a recipe that wasn't very stressful, is there one that you would go to in this book?
Well, that would change over time. So there's a bunch of them that just feel really easy making. But I will tell you that speaking of eggplant parm, so I was making eggplant parmesan a certain way for probably my entire life. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, oh, I need more recipes for this book. I should probably just do an eggplant parm. Everybody loves that. And I was like, but mine, my mom's is incredible. So I was like, Mom, why don't you give me your recipe for this? Right. So she gives it to me. She's like, well, it's actually not mine. It's my mother's. So it's my grandmother Eugenia's
Oh,
recipe for eggplant parm. And I read it. And the first thing I see is that she doesn't salt her eggplant. And I'm like, what? What? I can't do that. I must salt my eggplant. I mean, I was like, Mother, you don't do that? She's like, I never have. I'm like, what? Anyway, so it was a big family revelation. I said, fine. I throw caution to the wind. I'm doing what my grandmother did exactly as she did it. And I'm just like, yo, that is the best eggplant parmesan I have ever had in my life.
there's sort of food science behind that.
I really wonder what it is because whatever it is, it's so simple, it's so good. And so Harley's been on this tear where I just have to make it routinely. And then now, as people have like come over, they just got back from tour and, he was here, and Dominic, his guitarist, was here, and he was like, "You have to make eggplant parm." I'm like, "I will do it. You will be here. It will be here." Yeah. So that would be kind of in the mix of a few things that I would make for someone.
Nice. Yeah, I feel like eggplant, when people make it well, that is really divine. Um, so I do have a question. Okay, so when you decided to do this cookbook, obviously you wanted to make cooking very accessible to people, like, and just kind of share anecdotes or stories. But I'm really curious how, like, what was the first recipe that sort of maybe you be like, I have to do a book, or what was the first inkling that you wanted to really document this?
Yeah, so it was a COVID project.
Oh,
Yeah, I was cooking more than I'd ever cooked in years and years, maybe ever. And, it was at that moment when everybody was hoarding food and water and everything else and didn't want to leave the house. And so I just started cooking, 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 cooking. And I'm thinking, this is really good. This is really good. This is in rotation. This is good. I should write this down, actually. I should write this down. I don't want to forget how to do this. And I started like writing things down, and I thought, I have so many recipes that came from different parts in my life and different people, and they're so fraught with meaning. And
yeah.
as I said, I love to write, so it became like more like storytelling.
Hmm.
And it was totally anecdotal at the beginning, and I based it originally it was seasonal because that's kind of how I think about food.
Yeah.
Um, and then Feral House was like, you can't do that because the whole world is not in your seasons, Laura. I'm like, okay, all right, all right. But and then my cousin, who is an extraordinary editor, she wound up reading it the first pass and editing it, and she said to me, this is really, it's not really a cookbook, it's a book about cooking. And that resonated with me because that's really how I got into it. The hardest part was measuring everything and making it, like the same because I cook like this, I cook like, woo, yeah, a little bit more of this, a little more ginger, a little, so it was really like storytelling, and it became easy because I was doing so much of it at the time. And I'm like, I'm doing a lot of cooking. What does cooking mean to me? And I was getting happy memories of different times in my life and with different recipes. And I just started writing it.
That's amazing. Yeah, I love that. And that, again, very much resonates with my kind of punk rock attitude about many things, not just music. So I love that. Um, yeah, I can't, I just find myself kind of going through it. Like, there's so many beautiful photos, like such beautiful
Thank you.
colors. And um, I love, yeah. Guys, you guys have to go get this book. It's just, I find mesmerized by food. It, like, sometimes I just don't know what to eat, so it's good to have like pictures of things, right? Like, because
I
that's
agree.
that's what I want. And I think the best cookbooks do. My sister got me a cookbook, and it was really sweet of her. But there were no pictures, and I'm like,
Oh,
what? Like,
that's rough, right?
storytelling.
I have cookbooks like that I love, but it is so difficult because you just
Yeah.
want to see. You just want to see what it's supposed to look like.
There's like kind of, there's drawings, but it doesn't, you know,
Doesn't do
not
it.
crap on the joy of cooking. That is a classic.
Yes.
But but I this one. So welcome to the Veggie Dome. So what was maybe like the most fun, not necessarily a recipe that you were writing about, but what was like a fun story that you enjoyed being able to share with people? Like, is there something that's a little sacred? Like, is there an anecdote that's like family related or friend related that you think that is important? Like, that sells the book.
Well, I think that it started out, when I started working on it, I was going to call it Hardcore Vegetarian Feeding Harley Flanagan. And that which I thought was funny, like
Yeah.
feeding my pet Harley Flanagan, but the press was like, "Oh no, it sounds like you're, some sort of slave to him or something." I'm like, "No, it doesn't, but that's fine." Anyway, so it was going to be a little more focused on becoming a vegetarian that way because I wasn't before I met Harley. And so that was an interesting journey for me. And the idea was to try to make plant-based eating easier for people. So it's not so difficult or off-putting, or it's a little simpler to come to it, and that was my goal. So the story that I liked to include the most really was the story about the grilled cheese sandwich, because that was very meaningful for me. I don't want to give it away, but it's a very meaningful grilled cheese sandwich
Yeah.
story.
Grilled
Um,
cheeses are one of those things where, like, I had a roommate one time and he was trying to tell me to put mayonnaise on, and like this is something people debate, right? Like, but everyone has their way of doing it,
True.
and I need a little sweet and a little. I'm a little sweet with my savory kind of girl. So like
Yeah.
one of my favorite vegetarian dishes that I would make would I actually prefer sometimes I prefer to, I don't call myself a vegetarian, but I tend to eat more vegetarian
Yeah.
friendly, I would say, time, only because I have certain health conditions where sometimes my body literally craves meat. And
Yeah.
so I would say 90% of the time I'm eating vegetarian. But I actually do prefer veggie bacon, weirdly enough. And so having a little jam with a little veggie bacon on a grilled cheese, nothing. And it's all about tomato for me too. And tomatoes can be very hit or miss.
Absolutely. I'm
Yeah.
very particular about a tomato, but yeah, it's a very personal kind of a sandwich.
Yeah.
And you can do lots of things to it. On the veggie bacon idea, and I just want to note this to everybody listening. I
Yeah.
think I mention it when I'm talking about making hen of the woods or maitake mushrooms, the way that I make them. It is the closest thing to that crunchy, crispy, burny, bacony taste that you could possibly get. It's unbelievable. And if you sprinkle it the way I make it on a grilled cheese sandwich, there's your bacon.
I love that.
So good.
Do you have people that inspired you on your journey, like professionally at all? Or would you say that like most of it is DIY inspired? Like, do you have chef friends? Do you have, I mean, you obviously mentioned that your family is like very food centric. Um, but are there people that like have inspired, or even just like cooking shows that you enjoy?
Um, I haven't really watched a lot of cooking shows. I'd say that I mean, it's kind of old school, but the person that inspired me most cooking wise was Martha Stewart, quite frankly, because I was in university, I was some part of my education, and someone gave me her Martha Stewart Living like subscription, and I started getting it, and there was nothing that I would have received otherwise, and I was like mesmerized. Talk about pictures, and for somebody who's, you know, visual and likes food and crafty things and art and whatever, I was just like, oh my goodness, this is delectable. I mean, she made me crazy too. Like, I'm not raising my chickens and I'm not getting my own eggs from my chicken. Like, I can't do that.
Yeah,
But um,
it's great
I
for inspiration.
totally, and I guess it inspired me in a sense that she used things in ways that wouldn't have done that before. Like, she just put things together and I'm like, "Oh, I can mess around with that. I can do something with that." Like the corn salad recipe, which is one of my favorite summer recipes ever. I'd never made a corn salad in my life. And so I was very inspired by her to use food in different ways. Um, so that's huge. And then I mentioned at the beginning, I dedicate the book to my cousin's husband, my cousin Tom, who um, was really the first person in my life who showed me and fed me in a way that I was nervous about the spices he used. He was Australian and he had lived in Southeast Asia and he had traveled everywhere and he knew how to really cook Asian food in a way that I was like, oh my God, I can't even pronounce these spices. I have no idea how to use them. I'm so intimidated. It'll be like baking. I'll be like, okay, this much of this much of that, which is not my style.
Yeah.
Um, and I just was so inspired by that. And I do when I cook, when I'm able to cook now with like Indian spices and feel fearless, and that's like that's Tom Scott right there.
I had a roommate who was Indian, and she taught me how to cook so many really simple, inexpensive dishes that were all vegetarian. I mean, she's
Yeah.
vegetarian. Yeah, it's mostly vegetarian. Like just like a the spinach paneer like from scratch, and it's so
Oh,
simple. And
good.
that's a recipe where you think it takes a lot of work, but it's so simple. It's just about having the right spices. If
Yes.
you were getting started, maybe you wanted to move into a vegetarian lifestyle, are there certain like core, like, okay, I'm going to ask you, you have 5 ingredients, like, and they can be spices, they can be just like things that are staples in your house, things Harley loves, whatever. What's in your grocery cart?
Like the things I buy the most of.
Yeah, like,
I'll tell you an embarrassing story.
okay.
This is fresh off this really just literally happened. So Harley works with an engineer, Arthur Rizek, who I adore. He's fantastic and I love him. His family has a magnificent grocery store in PA. It's like Lebanese, all
Oh, cool.
Mediterranean products, so fantastic. And I don't know, about a month ago, Harley came home with fabulous little food. He was out of the studio and he came home with all these goodies for me and this really nice big bottle of olive oil, like Lebanese olive oil. It was like fabulous. Anyway, I went through that olive oil so fast that by the time he went back, Arthur was first of all floored that I went through it that fast. And so that time he came back with a jug, like a literal jug of olive
Uh,
oil. And I will tell you, it's been 2 months and that jug is out the door. So
so Lebanese olive oil, is there a particular brand or style? What makes it so great? Like, or
it's not even that. It's really just olive oil. I use so much olive oil. It's actually disgusting, but I cook with it in every way. Like I just use it all the time and liberally. I think
yeah.
it's very healthy. So there's always olive oil in my grocery cart. There's I usually always have there's always some sort of fresh vegetable, whatever the season is. So there's always a potato in there. I just have to be honest.
Oh,
Potatoes are my favorite food. That's just the way it is.
and you can
Um,
do so diverse. You can do so much with potato.
Everything with a potato, and it always tastes good.
Yeah.
Um, let's see. I do have tofu often because it goes bad and I do use it at least once a week. So some
Yeah.
sort of organic hard to like firm tofu. Um,
Do you find that there's like a special trick with tofu? I've seen so many things
yes.
online. Someone I just learned you're supposed to boil it, like that's the Asian way of doing it, and it makes it.
I've seen that too. I've never
Yeah,
done that, but
yeah.
I think I learned my trick. I don't even remember, but it was some show about drying it. And then from there you can do what you want with it. So you get all that water out of it first if you're going to fry it, for example. And what I did like tonight, I made some Asian stuff and I fried tofu and what I've started to do is I get it all dry and get most of the liquid out and then I'll pour like soy sauce on it. Not a lot, but just enough to like make it that color. Then I'll slice it into tiny cubes and fry it. And with the soy sauce, it becomes like this incredible, crunchy little nugget of wonder that you then throw into whatever you're making. And you're like, oh my goodness, there are crunchy bits of deliciousness in there. What is that? Well, it's tofu.
Yeah. It's so good. It's so good. And then for me, it's always like I'm always trying to eat affordably. So a lot of times it'll just be like simple, like cabbage slaw or something. And you can
Totally.
just put whatever fresh vegetable. It's great. Um, okay, so we have olive oil, we have tofu, we have a potato. What are
Yeah,
those?
there's definitely I use a lot of garlic in my cooking. So the
There.
garlic is around.
Yes, I love garlic as well. And
And then I have to say the reason that I go to the grocery store most often is to actually buy carrots for my horse. So there's always carrots in my bag. Always.
lunch. I love carrots are also good. Okay, so I wanted to kind of direct this a little bit. Um, So a lot of my clients know that your husband is Harley Flanagan of he's maybe most famous, I would say, for the Cro-Mags, but he's also done his own bands of his own, like his own staff. um, and he just put out this film, or there's a film on his life right now that's out.
Yes,
Can we talk a little bit about that as well?
sure.
Yeah, that's exciting. So you guys
Yes.
both have going on right now.
Yeah, it's that actually if Harley were here, he would say that's actually her project. That's just my story, but that's her project. So yes, that was a 7-year project.
Wow. Oh,
And
I have
I
astrologer in me is like
yes,
noting.
tell me. 2018. 2018
Okay,
June.
okay, we'll have to look at this a little bit further. I will this. So what I found interesting is when you hear seven, these are Saturn cycles, and you said you started your book in during COVID. There was a conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter that happened. We call this the Great Conjunction in astrology. Usually these are global events, like things that affect and so we had COVID that affected globally everything. And then now, as we sit and your book is out, we have Saturn meeting up with Neptune. So there another Saturn transit. So these Saturn transits seem to be very significant in your life. So I would want to look at to answer your question about 2018. My guess would be that there was something happening in Harley's chart personally, or your chart personally, that reached that maybe would have started at that time, and then we would have to see where Saturn is now. Something interesting to also note is I looked at Harley's chart a while ago, and he's an Aquarius moon.
Right, he's a Pisces though, right?
Yeah, he's a Pisces, but the moon is what we eat. It's our
Gotcha.
emotional expression. It's who we are emotionally.
Hmm.
It's how we nourish ourselves. So when we look at the moon in a chart, especially in like a man's chart too, it's going to tell him the type of woman that he likes. So he probably, someone who I have an Aquarius moon also. So like Aquarius moons tend to be very independent, eccentric, kind of. They're gonna deal with their emotions in a more not necessarily, we hear the word detached a lot, and I don't think it's so detached. It's just like they stand on business. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like when they say something, it's because they've thought about it a lot. They've made a decision. They don't need you to. They're a little we're a little stubborn that way, and
yeah.
so I also appreciate that in other people, right? And so when the Aquarius and Capricorn are the two signs that are ruled by Saturn. So something tells me that there's probably a little bit of an Aquarius story there. Anyway, continue.
I'm sure there is, because one of the things that he and I have noted numerous times when people say, wow, you guys are so different, like you couldn't be more different. I'm like, no, actually, we're so alike. We're personal, like just we're very, very focused, we're very driven, and we
Yeah,
feed that energy feeds off
Saturn.
of it's unbelievable. Like
Yeah,
we're both relentless people, and we joke now, like, yeah, maybe at one point, but there's no way anybody could live with us now, either of us. So we're
that's
we're staying
very
together.
yeah. It's funny. Something interesting about astrology is whatever sign, so every sign has an opposite, right? So for Leo, you're a Leo rising. That would be Aquarius. So Leo is the opposite of Aquarius. So Leo, the leader, likes to shine the sun, whereas Aquarius is the opposite. It's the outsider. It's the person who thinks about things differently, the rebel, it just doesn't, oh, it's not always super overt in somebody. Maybe in Harley's case, having an Aquarius moon is pretty overt in his case. But when we have the moon, especially in like in a loving relationship on someone's descendant, so the ascendant is the sign that was rising in the east. That's literally your physical body. That's who you are. But the descendant is the private part. It's like what happens when you close the door at 6 p.m., like who you're hanging out with, your partner, your private life is seen.
Yeah,
So have the moon there. It's one of the best signs we see for cohabitation because there's a living style that is really similar. There's
yeah.
yeah, so you telling me
Well,
that.
that's so interesting. I mean, so could you please, I'm sorry to derail, but I need an explanation. So what is the relationship between the sign that you're supposedly born with? Like I'm a Cancer,
Okay.
right? But I know my ascending sign is Leo.
Yeah.
What is that relationship between those two things?
Well, okay, so the sun is our ego. I always simplify it by saying the sun is like how our ego wants to shine, how it wants to be recognized, right? Now, if you have your sun in a house that is really public, like the 10th house, which is the midheaven, we call that, and that represents the part of the sky where the sun is the highest in the day, you'll see somebody that's like, Courtney Love has a Cancer sun in her 10th house. She's very moody. She's, she has all of those crabby kind of qualities that she's famous for. However, in your chart, you have it in a very private place, which is the 12th house as a Leo rising. So you're going to have that Cancer energy, but it's going to be a little bit more private. So
Um,
you're like a mama bear with the 12th house. You're like the
really?
protective, like goes on their intuition, wants to learn the whys behind things, sensitive, but not necessarily going to show anyone your sensitivity unless they know you really freaking well.
Amen.
So, so
It's so right on.
that's get like a Cancer that could be more like extroverted, like Tony Bourdain had that in his chart too.
Mhm.
Cancer sun, but in a private house. So like
Yeah,
but imagine the Tony that we saw on television, as lovely as he was. There was probably a different guy that we didn't get to see in some way, but also
very
probably
different.
active, person, like a very emotional person, behind the scenes, because that's the 12th house. Um, so I hope that that answers your question a little bit. Do you know
Yes.
he's rising sign, or you don't?
Harley's?
Yeah,
I
just
don't,
have
but
that.
I feel like he knows it, but I don't know it.
We'll follow up. But yeah, it's funny because sometimes I think that's why people don't think astrology is like fake or whatever, because they don't recognize the intricacies of it. You get different flavors of things. And then on top of that, you have something called aspects, which means that like the way that the sun is positioned in the sky when you were born might be very different to another Cancer person. Um, Someone who's much older, for example, like my dad's generation, my dad was born in the 30s, they're going to have Pluto with their sun. So they're going to be more of that darker, kind of controlling kind of energy of Cancer. Whereas somebody who might have, the sun in a nice aspect to Neptune, which is a more like, you know, artsy kind of planet, they're going to have like that softer kind of Cancer energy. So
Yeah.
that's why I get different signs that kind of show themselves differently. I look at the signs as stages of development. And with Cancer, I look at Cancer as, so every sign I look at it, and just this is my own personal philosophy. Um, Cancer has already mastered the Gemini stage. Like every sign before it, it carries that over. So the Gemini stage is all about communication and talking and friendship and siblings and writers and people who speak, right? And so you find a lot of Cancers are great writers, they're great speakers, but what they're really learning about in this lifetime is the emotional body, and they're trying to, and that's why they've chosen to become, if you believe that, that's why they've chosen a path of being a Cancer. It's not always going to be comfortable, but there might have been like, I was a writer in a past life, but now I want to be an artist. And, artists need to feel things, they need to come from an emotional space. So how can I up level that? Or, I was a really great sibling. That's another Gemini thing, siblings and friends and going back and forth and who you're speaking to. But I never got to be a mom. And in this life, I want to be a mom. I want to know what that feels like. That's very Cancer, because Cancer is the mother. And
Right.
so yeah, there's a lot of that. So somebody, for example, who has a Leo rising like you, I would look at it through my lens of astrology, of saying, well, they've mastered that part, has in your case, you have probably mastered the cancer stage because cancer's right before Leo. So you probably have been a mom in a past life, but now you're going to be a mom who wants to take charge. You're going to be a mom who wants to show leadership skills. So to be born in this time and place where women have more rights than they did, 50, 60 years ago, or whatever past life you might have had, you're going to want to be born in a time where you can actually do it your way. Like it's Frank Sinatra, my way now, So yeah,
Totally.
I love that. So there's different components to charts. Like I love that. And there's it you could learn your whole life and there's still more to learn. And I kind of like subjects that consume you like that. And cooking's very, to bring it forward, cooking is very much like that. You could go to culinary school, you could have, a master's in cooking or something, and you would still be always learning because there's always new things to, like cultures outside of our own might have,
Sure.
different ways of cooking a particular item. So I feel like this is a great book if you're wanting to begin this journey of like learning how to cook and developing a relationship with food and just funny stories, funny images. I love it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. So this film, let's talk about the film.
Oh
Yes.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
We
So
got
the
back
film,
there.
right. So yeah, I mean, I had worked with Harley on his book, and I had edited his memoir, and we wanted to I always thought it was very cinematic and would be an amazing film, but I was thinking at the point more of like a narrative film, not like a documentary. And then through Harley's relationship at a friend of his, basically at the Jiu-Jitsu Academy at Hunzo Gracie Academy, we were introduced to the director, Rex Miller, who is a very talented, award-winning director who was, for all of his reasons, interested in working on this project as a documentary. And so we started talking, as I said, in 2018. And we, had fits and starts. It was kind of a bumpy road at the beginning, and getting him to sort of understand the story and feeling comfortable with him and his style and everything else. And then we hit COVID. So then we had, a year and a half pause where there was basically nobody doing anything.
Yeah.
Um, and then we got really rolling hard in like 2021. And the rest is insane mayhem history. Birth by fire.
Very loud.
It was unbelievable. Like I am a producer on the film, and I didn't realize what that would mean at the time, but it has meant that I I don't even want to like go into the details, but unbelievable unbelievable process, and I'm very proud. I'm very proud of the film. It's beautiful. If you haven't seen it, everybody go and see it right away. It's good.
Can
There's
you
a
say it just
what?
so people know? Can you say the title of it so people
Yes.
know? And
It's called Harley Flanagan Wired for Chaos. If you go to wiredforchaos.com, there's all sorts of information about where it's been playing, where it will play, um, and eventually where you'll be able to purchase it, or stream it, or wherever it's going to do in its life. But it premiered at Doc NYC in November of 2024. It was like a festival cut. Then it went to Slam Dance in Los Angeles in February of 2025, which was awesome. And then it had like its little theatrical run, which was more mayhem, but fantastic mayhem.
yes,
But it's an epic film. It's really his entire life. It's a music doc, but it's so much bigger than that. It's really just about a person who is really changed and had an incredible life while doing all of this stuff that about him, just all the behind the scenes and the difficulties and the drama, trauma, and everything else.
yes. And a number of our students here grew up by way of hardcore. But for anyone who's viewing this for the first time, who just is like, what are you talking about? Her husband, Harley Flanagan, again, he was in Cro-Mags and many other projects. But like more interestingly, I just think his growing up on the Lower East Side is such an interesting time in history, and just having, being so. There's all those pictures of him when he was young, just playing in bands, like 8 or 9 years old, like hanging out with Debbie Harry and these amazing like beat writers, and yeah, like he's just, imagine, like, I always, okay, so if you are into punk, or you, and I assume most people have been to a punk show, because of my generation, this is the generation that grew up going to shows, and that was kind of a little bit more mainstream, but like there was always some young kid, and I always have mom energy at shows. I'm a Virgo rising, so I I have Cancer in my 11th house of community. So I always am like the mom friend protecting people in the pit. So I always became friends with the little, 8-year-old at shows, and protective of them, and that was Harley. And like, it's crazy to see these pictures, just seeing all these things that he was privy to and experienced. It's just such a, I've always been very fascinated by the cultural history of New York City, and the Lower East Side in particular is just a fast, in the 80s, it's just such a fascinating time for me. Like, so much political disruption. You're kind of there for the beginning stages of, again, I talked about the Tompkins Square Park riots, which are very interesting to me, and we're seeing a lot of parallels as we are criminalizing homelessness in our country right now, which is insane. Instead of helping people get their needs met. And so here comes along this person that like has a different way of rebelling, a way that is, not completely destroying your body, and instead taking care of yourself and your mental health, and your your spiritual health. I think that that's such a powerful lesson. I've always, my ex-boyfriend, I was with my ex for many years. He was also played in hardcore bands and stuff, and he would always tell me that I was into intelligent punk or whatever that means, and I was just like, no, I just tend to like kind of, I obviously Cro-Mags are just such an influence on everyone, but like in particular, like the bands like Inside Out and stuff that I enjoyed growing up, that kind of brought me to my consciousness. So your husband is a lot to thank for me even probably having this career that I do as an astrologer, to getting me to think differently about the world around me and my
Yeah.
spirit.
I mean, what a lot of what we've learned from the people we've spoken to who were involved with the film and the people who've gone to see the film, he's had a huge impact on people in all different parts of his life. And now I think as he's matured and really evolved in incredible ways, there are a lot of very young people who go to these shows and they go with their parents or they go alone, and they're really getting a good message, like a really solid message about, you know, the troubles that can happen and the things you can get through
Yeah.
and difficulties that you can experience in your life, and this not giving up idea that he is so relentless about, and for good reason. He's seen what happens if you don't give up.
Yeah. That is a
So
really powerful message. Guys, go watch the film or go see the film. It's going to be on pay. You said you're going to be able to see it on at home or at paper. What do they call it? It's not pay-per-view anymore. It's not the 90s.
yeah, it's no, it's like there's going to be a limited time screening event like online,
Okay.
but it's only for a week between August 8th and August 15th, but it'll
Okay.
be back. I mean, it's going to then, I
Cool.
think we're supposed to be in Europe in October doing a theatrical kind of Q&A run, and then it'll go to streaming, and eventually it'll be, DVD, Blu-ray, all that good stuff. So it'll
Nice.
be out there.
Super exciting. Well, thank you so much for sharing your time today. And guys, hardcore vegetarian. I plugged this like 10 times today already.
Thank you
I
for having me. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Guys, please go follow
There you are.
There we go. What a weird time to freeze. Okay. I hate
No, that was strange.
you. Okay, where can we grab you if you want to say it again just to make sure?
No, I thank you everybody for stopping by and for listening, and I hope you enjoy the book. And B, thank you for having me. This was a really cool conversation, and I look forward to having more of this conversation because you've got me all piqued and interested in now, and I got to hear more.
Hopefully this is your beginning of another love of astrology. Everyone take care. We'll be back soon next month with a new book club entry, and hopefully we'll get you guys reading again. Okay. Talk to you soon. Bye bye.